As an overachiever, I'm always looking for ways to define and measure success, especially as it relates to being in command of my career journey. In this week's podcast, I share how to use key performance indicators, KPIs, to redefine success on your terms, which includes saying goodbye to endlessly comparing yourself to others, which we all know is not helpful at all, and yet it's so hard to stop. Hey everyone, I'm Laverne McKinnon, and welcome to the Moonshot Mentor podcast. I'm a certified career coach and grief recovery specialist. I love to help ambitious, driven people feel confident, empowered, and excited after experiencing a career setback. Whether it's from feeling stuck in a tough period or frustration from slow progress, I offer up tools and resources to revamp your path to career success. So let's dive in to today's topic. If you're exhausted, comparing yourself to others, or constantly wondering if you're doing enough, consider using key performance indicators, KPIs, to measure your career progress and success, as opposed to wondering why someone else is getting promoted or hired. Believe me, I've been there, and so many of my clients have been there too. Wondering why Pat got bumped up when they started at the company after you, wondering why Jerry got an interview at the studio and you didn't, why you got left off an email chain and were not even included in the strategy meeting. The list is endless, and the comparison list is endless, and it's not productive, and it's extremely hurtful, and for most people, demotivating. So instead of comparing yourself to others or beating yourself up for not doing enough, embrace KPIs and focus on your own progress. So why are KPIs helpful? KPIs provide a structure to determine what success looks like based on your values, and it identifies steps needed to achieve that success. It takes that wishing, the hoping, and praying for things to be different, and it provides you with a way to measure your individual and unique progress. Now, I first learned about KPIs when I got my MBA years and years and years ago, and they've really come in handy as I worked my way up the corporate ladders and got funding for my production company. So what do entertainment industry KPIs typically look like? So usually they're focused on a couple of different things, like the number of projects that are greenlit, how financially lucrative those projects are, and how well received they are by the critics and audience. So of course, every company and individual is different, but these three KPIs are the primary indicators of success in the entertainment industry. I learned how to translate my entertainment experiences, aka wins, into identifiable success metrics like highest testing pilots in network history, #1 rated drama in key demos 3 seasons in a row, increased production volume by 67 million over an 18-month period. So your ability to specifically identify, track, measure, and articulate your wins is critical to your long-term career success, and more importantly, your own sense of confidence, worthiness, and fulfillment. Now, that being said, it's actually more critical for you to identify what success means to you personally, rather than chasing after industry KPIs at the expense of your values, purpose, and well-being. So let's take a closer look at key performance indicators before we go any further. The definition of a KPI, as I said earlier, is a key performance indicator. It's a form of quantifiable measurement to determine whether your actions are bringing you closer to, meeting, or exceeding your goals. A super simple example. If you're a writer, your goal might be to complete a screenplay. Your KPI might be to write 5 pages per day, 5 days per week. In this situation, the question of whether one is doing enough can be measured. Done 5 pages or you haven't. A KPI needs to be clearly measurable. But here's the thing. I've got a beef with KPIs because they're focused on outcomes and don't make a lot of room for process. And I'm a big believer that process and outcome are linked. So consider this. I could starve myself for 5 days and lose a bunch of weight, but that's not actually healthy or sustainable in the long run. I've met my goal of losing 5 pounds, but at what cost? We want to make sure that achieving outcomes don't crush us, which is why including process KPIs will help you achieve healthy long-term success. Now, it doesn't mean that you're always going to achieve your goal, but you can be fulfilled in living your values while getting there. And that, to me, is success. The hard truth is that we can't always control outcomes. KPIs are a great tool to try and help control it, but there are always outside factors outside of our control, like a pandemic or a strike or marketplace contractions. The best use of a KPI is to identify your values and include process steps in your KPIs that reflect those values. So if we go back to losing 5 pounds, I may actually choose to include process KPIs like going to the gym 3 times per week, not eating 3 hours before bed, eating 5 colorful fruits and vegetables every day, eating until I'm 80% full. An outcome KPI based on these process KPIs might be to lose the 5 pounds or 1 pound per week until I get to those 5 pounds over 5 weeks. Now, I can hear it from you already, but I can't stop comparing myself to others. I get it because I've been there. If you take the time to identify your values and develop process KPIs based on those values, you will actually find yourself less and less inclined to compare yourself to others. Why? Because you're in alignment with yourself and you will feel fulfilled. When we're in alignment, we don't get pulled into looking at what other people are doing in comparison to ourselves. There's no need to compare, because we're pleased with what we are doing and it feels good to honor our values. It feels bad to honor other people's values. It shows up as grumpiness, irritation, impatience, spite, resentment. When you're honoring your values, you may still get frustrated, upset, and angry as you work towards achieving your goals. But now you have a source to clearly identify why you're having those feelings. It's because those values have been stepped on, either by you, by someone else, or a situation. When you compare yourself to other people, you get caught in the web of living their values and not your own. And so we're constantly wondering if we're doing enough because you're not experiencing success or a sense of fulfillment. You're a ballerina playing football, or a scuba diver climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, or a writer crunching numbers. So I'm going to take a little bit of time right now to talk you through a case study. My client, I'm going to call her Joan, was miserable in her role as an account executive at a boutique agency. And she was really jealous of her friends who were thriving in their jobs, or supposedly thriving, because you never truly know what's going on with someone. But she couldn't figure out what made them so great and what made her suck. So we first drilled down on Joan's misery. Over time, she was able to identify how much she hated making cold calls and how much she disliked managing data through spreadsheets. Now, she really loved interfacing with clients and building rapport, helping them to identify their needs, and facilitating communication. And her clients loved her back. So it took a moment to find this clarity and to find out and to separate out specifically what worked for her and what didn't. Once we had that clarity, we took the second step, which was identifying what values were being honored and which were being stepped on in her role. And this is what we found out. The values that Joan was honoring were being of service, relationships, community, teamwork, camaraderie, clarity. Although she, in fairness, couldn't see how cold calls converted to clients. So there's a lack of clarity there. Now, the values that were being stepped on were freedom, independence, problem solving, and also camaraderie. Now, when Joan saw how much her core values were being stepped on by the company culture, she had a big aha. No one was out to get her or make her miserable. It was simply that the way things were being done by the founders had become cemented through the years. So at this point, Joan had a decision of whether she should stay or leave since there was a values misalignment. Joan chose to stay because she was curious if she could make some personal changes first to not feel miserable, because she recognized that she was going to take her baggage into whatever situation she went into next. So she wanted to see what she could unload through our work together. So this is when we went to the third step, which is to identify the KPIs that took into consideration Joan's values and what she was really good at in order for her to find happiness at work. Now, we went back and forth on this for a few sessions and initially identified 5 traditional KPIs. Decrease cold calling time from 15 hours per week to 3 hours. Joan recognized this was an aspect of her job, and she felt she could generate new business in other ways besides cold calling. 2, as a result of decreasing cold calling time, she would reduce her time in spreadsheet hell from 7 hours per week to 1 hour per week. 3, utilize 5% of her time with existing clients to ask for referrals and testimonials. 4, host a dinner, one dinner per month with 4 prospective clients as a kind of like executive roundtable in order to build relationships and rapport. And then finally, secure 4 new clients per quarter. Now, Joan was able to use the language of KPIs with her boss to provide a roadmap of how she could still meet the company's revenue goals while playing to her strengths. And due to her strong relationship with clients, the company gave her 3 months to pilot this new process, despite it being outside the company culture. Joan missed her first quarter KPI of 4 brand new clients, but she did secure 2. However, the monthly dinners she hosted were a huge hit, and she had 13 prospective clients in the queue that could lead to exceeding the annual revenue goals by 22%. Joan received the okay to keep moving forward, and she was happier, but not happy. So this is when we brainstormed around process KPIs that honored her values and focused on happiness. While the other KPIs were fine, they were solely focused on business outcomes that would alter how she did her job, which affected her happiness, but didn't really get to the core issue. So in drilling down even further, what was important, Joan realized that she didn't want to move up the ladder. That success metric was something that was instilled in her by her parents, but was not something that she truly valued. She did want to have steady income in a stable role, and she wanted to have a vibrant personal life. So we came up with the following process KPIs based on Joan's definition of success in her own words. A healthy marriage with 2 or 3 kids, with trips to visit her family on the East Coast on a regular basis, and time to go camping and traveling. So here are her process KPIs. Take a walk outside of the company building once per day. Leave work by 6 o'clock so she can make and have dinner with her family. Spend every other winter break with her family and the other winter breaks with her husband's family. Set aside 3% of her salary into a travel fund. And identifying measurable steps that Joan could take to up her happiness, she moved out of a place of feeling helpless to finding agency. 3 months after she created this process list, she added 2 additional process KPIs. Meditate for 10 minutes per day, and then have I laughed today? Now let's take a look at how to use KPIs to evaluate your overall career success. So many of my clients have historically measured their career success solely based on title, income, awards, and perks. And while these are key indicators, I've found that expanding beyond the traditional usage of the term can be massively helpful in achieving success. So consider work-life balance with much more emphasis on quality of life. Financial sufficiency over abundance. Many of my clients, and honestly, I feel this way as well, are feeling repulsed by financial gluttony. Flexibility to choose whether to work remotely or in the office or hybrid. Stronger boundaries of not blending the personal with the professional, being friendly but not friends in the work environment. These are just a few examples from my clients. Ultimately, it's really about how you define success versus living someone else's definition of it. So bottom line, in the spiral of comparing ourselves to others and grappling with feelings of inadequacy, embracing KPIs can be a game changer. Rather than endlessly wondering why someone else got that promotion or job offer, KPIs provide a tangible way to measure your own progress and success. However, you can amplify the KPI tool by defining what success means to you and align your actions with your values. This way you can find fulfillment and confidence in your career journey. It's truly about focusing on the process, not the outcomes, and crafting KPIs that reflect your unique aspirations and priorities, whether it's achieving work-life balance, financial sufficiency, or maintaining strong boundaries. Using KPIs to evaluate your career success empowers you to live by your own standards and not someone else's. So instead of getting caught up in comparisons and external markers of success, take charge of your own narrative and define success on your own terms. So that's it for today. Head on over to Moonshot Mentor on Substack for journal questions to help you create your own key performance indicators. Drop me a comment. Let me know if this tool resonates for you. And you can visit me at moonshotmentor.com where you can find links to all my social and how to work with me. And as always, a super, super big thank you to Lynn Chen for the video and audio editing. You can find her on social at Ms. Lynn Chen. And if you're enjoying what you're watching and hearing, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to my blogcast, as it helps me achieve my moonshot of 5,000 subscribers. Thank you so very, very much, and I look forward to seeing you next week.